Hello, Wargamers. As you know, Games Workshop is going through the process of finally releasing new FAQs and errata for Warhammer 40K. And this past week, we were fortunate enough that they put out the new Tau Empire FAQ. First draft, of course, so it's a work in progress. Basically, they put this first draft out there and take comments on it. I think for the Blood Angels, they actually had a pretty quick revision of at least one of those FAQs to better align with what the community wanted. And so for the Tau Empire rules, it's a doozy. There's about 10 pages of it, I think. And a lot of it is really cool stuff in terms of really clarifying things that needed to be clarified. And a lot of it is things that I didn't think were that unknown. A lot of it is, rules is written kind of like, yeah, that was the point. But, there's always that guy at the store that is like, oh, no, it says this one particular rule and this is slightly different, so therefore it doesn't count. But, clearly it was meant to work all along. So, yeah, so there's a lot of that type of clarification, but there are some really big clarifications that I want to go over today. So the first one is that they fixed the Hunter Contingent special rule. Now, that used to be worded that the unit fired, or excuse me, multiple units could fire as a single unit. And so a lot of people, myself included at various times, thought that meant that if you had a buff commander in one unit, you could have his buffs apply to multiple other units in the formation, as long as they were firing at a single target using the coordinated firepower special rule. But GW has clarified that in this FAQ with an errata, and now it says, whenever a unit from a Hunter contingent selects a target in the shooting phase, any number of other units from the same detachment who can still shoot can add their firepower to the attack. These units must shoot the same target, resolving their shots at the same time as those of the first unit. When 3 or more units combine their firepower in this way, the firing model adds 1 to their ballistic skill. In addition, any marker-like counters expanded by the first unit confer their benefits to all units shooting at the same target as part of the coordinated fire attack. For example, if you expend 1 marker light counter on the pinpoint ability, all units taking part in the coordinated firepower attack would add 1 to their ballistic skill for shots directed at the same target of that attack. So it's no longer phrased in an ambiguous way. It now applies to marker lights only, and it really only gives you that ballistic skill bump if there's 3 or more units firing using this special rule. So it's very clean cut, and easy to use. It shouldn't be too hard to implement in your games, which is good. I appreciate that. Of course, that does make the formation a little less powerful than if, well, a lot less powerful than if you could do the special rule sharing that would be inherent in the other type of wording. But I think this is probably a much fairer and less broken ruling. So I'm happy about this. I think it's good, and clarification is really a good thing in a lot of cases. Another big change is that marker lights are not affected by void shields. There was some ITC FAQs and some other tournament FAQs that I saw that were saying that void shields prevented marker lights from actually being used. GW has clarified that marker lights are not impacted by void shields, which is nice. They've also clarified that, yes, indeed, multi-trackers can be used in Overwatch and Interceptor, which, a lot of people are playing it that way anyway. But there's, again, some people that disagreed with that ruling. Now we have clarification for that. That's great. They also said that the command and control node and the multi-spectrum sensor suite can be used in Interceptor, which is great. That makes Interceptor a lot more powerful. Because, again, that was one thing that some people did not think was possible, but again, now we can do that. Something that I think is kind of hilarious is that if you have an anchored Storm Surge, so if you anchor Storm Surge, he can fire twice. If you have an anchored Storm Surge and he gets tank shocked, because he can't move out of the way, he's destroyed. So that's a rules is written thing. You would have to think about that a little bit, but yeah, that's how it works. So don't anchor your Storm Surge if there's a tank, because that's a real easy gargantuan creature kill for your opponent, which I think is kind of funny. You can just run a little tank into a giant creature and it dies, but that works. You can kind of think of it like a Imperial Walker situation from Empire Strikes Back, right? Like maybe he gets tripped up or something. But yeah. Another thing about Storm Surges is that if they are anchored on a Tide Wall rampart, the rampart cannot move. Some additional clarifications on the Tide Wall is that if there are any enemies on it, it can't move, and if the friendly unit is only partially on the rampart, it cannot move. Again, back to marker lights. Your opponent has to declare if they're jinking before you declare if you're going to use marker lights. So that gives you a little bit more leverage in deciding when to use your marker lights. It also is sometimes that can be hard, right? Because when I go to fire at something, I was like, okay, I'm going to take these marker lights and I'm going to fire at this, and then the opponent would say, oh well, I'm going to jink, and so it's kind of part of my process to just automatically take marker lights and say I'm shooting. But with this ruling and with how it's supposed to be played, it's important to actually follow the order of operations so that you're not wasting marker lights when you don't want to. And so that's an important thing to consider. The 8, so some issues with Farsight Enclaves. The 8, of course, can be fielded as a single unit. That was something that wasn't completely clear in the new Farsight Enclaves book, because it had a monstrous creature in it, but they said yeah you can do that, so that's good. And they also clarified that Riptides and Farsight Enclaves can take the Earthcast Pilot Array. That was something that was accidentally omitted from the new book. The previous version said explicitly that Riptides, although they normally could not take signature systems, can now take the early warning or the Earthcast Pilot Array. Again, that's still the case, so you can still put your Earthcast Pilot Array on a normal Riptide. You don't have to, take the special character or anything like that. So, excellent. All very helpful clarifications. One other thing is that the Piranha Firestream formation, that's the unit that has a bunch of piranhas in it, and if they go off the board, they go into ongoing reserves and can come back at full strength. They clarified that yes, that really does mean full strength. So if you have a unit of 4 piranhas that 3 of them get destroyed and the last one loses its 2 gun drones, and the last one gets off the board, then it can come back in with all 4 piranhas, all the gun drones, everything. It's brand new, basically. So that's great. That's how I had always interpreted the rule, but it's nice to have that in writing. Another ITC thing is that they had ruled that countermeasures could only be used once. So if you have a unit of 3 ghost keels, you could not use their countermeasures rule on different terms. They all had to do it at once, which was a huge nerf because, for one thing, that's one of the benefits of taking multiple ghost keels is that you can draw out that special rule over, a significant portion of the game, making them very difficult to kill. This FAQ here says that, yep, you can do that. You don't have to use all of the countermeasure special rules at once. You have once per suit, and so if you have a unit of 3, that means on 3 different turns you can do that, which is great. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's about all of the big FAQs. I'll provide a link to all of them in the description below. But yeah, like I said, a lot of really fundamental things and a lot of clarifications that we already pretty much assumed were correct, but then also some really useful things as well, like clarifying the hunter contingent special rule. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and of course, happy wargaming.